Hey, hey, fellas, this is a much, much different show than I thought we were going to be doing at about the 12-minute mark in the fourth quarter. I don't know what time it was. I don't know when it happened. But when Kareem Hunt fumbled that ball, I am certain I sent to the text chain like, hey, that's it, man. That's it. They just can't that is a microcosm of their season. Play before Andy draws it up. They draw it up. Nagy, if you want to be a part of this, they draw it up. They have exactly what they want to do. They got the Colts in a zero blitz, and they know they're faking the screen to Worthy to then get Juju right up the middle of the field, and it works to perfection. There is nobody in the middle of the field, and all it is, and I think even Mahomes, who was off a lot of the times in that game, was off, but he threw it up exactly what he needed to do with the pressure, zero blitz, threw it up, and I don't think it was anybody's fault. I mean, we know how fast Juju is. I don't think it's anybody's fault. Like they were just off by a smidge. And then the very next play, a person who has not fumbled since his first carry of his career, Kareem Hunt, gets flipped over in a weird situation and gets stripped on his way going down and fumbles the ball 20-9 as they're heading into score. And it's like, I know I was just like, man, they just don't, they ain't got it. But BK and Serda, it seemed like the season completely turned right there. And not like in a way that we were thinking that the damn thing is over, but it seemed like it turned in a way where Travis Kelce, like the realness of everybody came out. Travis Kelce would not allow Kareem Hunt to throw in the towel or anybody else. He went right over to him. And like it was authentic and real. He didn't know any cameras on him. He's like, hey, you can tell we got to have you. We are good. It is 11 minutes left. We got time. And throughout the entire commercial break, everyone has reported that Chris Jones probably lost as much energy going off and getting that entire crowd section down there going in that break saying it ain't over. Like none of them believed it was over. Listen, we know that's the hallmark of the Chiefs. I don't know how much I've actually felt it this year, but that in that moment, they were like, no, we are in refusal of having it to end this way. And then they go in and the rest is history. And it seemed like BK, like they needed to wash away whatever bad luck, whatever shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, we got a guy tipping an interception, tipping a ball, which to me is a great play for him to get his hands. Tipping the ball, and that damn thing goes right up to a place where he can catch it. Later on in the game, we get a tip. Nick Bolton's not even anywhere near looking at it. It almost hits him in the head. I mean, just whatever it is that was happening, them shooting themselves in the foot, the stupid, face mask penalty that took away a touchdown, all of the weird stuff that happens that doesn't normally, it's like they needed to do that to break that away. And it feels, now we'll see what happens going on. They could just go, they may just lose the next three, who knows? But it felt like something shifted and changed in that moment after Kareem fumbled.
At the beginning, it felt like we were going to watch basically a rerun of the Jaguars game, where the weirdest stuff possible can happen. And on special teams, they were getting penalized, happened all the time. You see the interception inside of your own 10, the fumble when you're in the red zone, like so many of these things. That the fumble, by the way, was the first fumble that the Chiefs have lost so far this season. They had fumbled before. They had never lost one on the season. So it was just like, oh my God, that's it. Like that's the play. I mean, in our text thread, Ron sent, that's the season in a nutshell. Had a touchdown, then a fumble. I said, that'll do it. And we all felt like it was over. The season, the game, everything. It was just over. And then from there, Ron, it was everybody. Like everybody picked it up. All of your best players played their best for whatever, 25 minutes of that football game. The Chiefs defense, after that fumble,
Good God.
saw 4 Indianapolis Colts drives. 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Those were the 4 drives. It was 12 total plays, 13 total yards, and the Colts, including a 2-minute overtime possession, had the ball on those 4 drives for a total of 5 minutes and 19 seconds. The defense did everything they possibly could to give this offense a chance, including the offense going 3 and out, down by 3, getting the ball back midway through the fourth quarter. And I don't know how you felt, Ron.
Bad field position, too. They were set up, too. They were at near midfield.
But when I saw them punt, Colts get the ball back at midfield, up by 3, 5.5 minutes to go. I once again thought to myself, man, we've seen this movie before. Yeah. This is where the Chiefs offense wasn't able to make the plays that were necessary, and the defense ends up folding. And instead, they gave up 1 yard and immediately got the ball back to the offense, and they drive down to kick the game-tying field goal. I mean, it was just everybody that we have called out: Chris Jones, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice. They finally all stepped up and made the plays that were necessary.
Serda, Noah Gray caught a ball unconscious. I mean, everybody chipped in. It didn't matter. Like there was another, weird situation. Like you said, I believe on that punt, they got another, either a penalty on Fulton or 2 guys just got their asses kicked and just drilled Remigio and set him up in a bad spot. One of the 2 happened. I can't remember. Yeah. It's just something bad. But one of the 2 happened. And then
penalty.
And then it was one of them. He's awful. One of Brett Veach's worst moves ever. I mean, what I would give to have Justin Reed out there instead of him. Anyway, I digress. And then they had to work around what Tony Romo said was the worst call he saw all year, where there was an offensive pass interference penalty on Kelce. They had to work through that, and they just made it happen. And you're right, BK and Serda, we have not seen them make it happen all year long. And it was fine. It was like something clicked where finally they made the plays that we generally see them making. And I don't know, it finally clicked.
It was the first time all season after, we've dissected and broken down everything and every loss this season, where it was like you can point to this one back-breaking thing that really turned the game. And it was the first time all season where they still had plenty of mistakes. They just finally overcame all of it. And it was like, I was with you guys. I was in the fourth quarter. I was just an unconsolable Chiefs fan at that point. Like I was like, it's over. What a wasted season. Just what a bummer of a year for a team that's got so much talent and so much aging talent. Like what a wasted season from this coaching staff and these players. And then they finally turn the corner, and it's like, after all these seasons of frustrating stuff, but them overcoming it and winning no matter what, and then this season seemingly hitting that roadblock, I was finally at a point where I was just like, okay, they just don't have it this year, and I'm willing and I'm ready to count them out and just say they aren't good enough this season. And they pull me back in and keep me going a little bit and stringing me along now to where I'm just back where I was before, where I'm like, I don't know how to evaluate this team at all, because they could still win any football game against any team in the NFL, probably.
Let me ask you guys this. This is off of the board of what we discussed that we're going to talk about. But as we're talking through this, I just want to workshop this. They make a lot of mistakes, themselves. They shoot themselves in the foot a lot. They do a lot of weird things. They miss a lot of plays. Are they in a slump? or is this them? Right? Like for them to get to where they need to get to, are they gonna have to no, we just gotta work around this stuff, or is it just a slump? Because I've seen them against the Lions, against the Ravens, against the Commanders, against the Raiders, those teams. I know all those teams are great teams, but this doesn't have to do with your opponent. They play cleaner games, and when they play cleaner games, they've looked like, uh-oh. But I also can't lie and sit there and say, we could roll through many of their games. They happen to win this one, but they just make so many mistakes themselves. And I can't figure out if this is just who they are, or they're just in a slump and they can change this. That part has kind of been messing with me.
It's a good question, Ron, because after that fumble, I would have reached the point of acceptance. I was just like Serda. Like, I wasn't even necessarily mad. I was annoyed and frustrated, don't get me wrong. But I was like, all right, it's just not their year. Like, sometimes this happens. I would have said it's a failure for everybody involved, don't get me wrong. But for me personally, just as a fan of this team that's seen so much great football over the last 7 years now, I was accepting of this not being their year. And then 25 minutes of football time later, I'm watching this at my in-laws' house where my brother-in-law is a huge Colts fan. We're watching this thing together, and he goes from jubilation to exhaustion by the end. And I'm like the opposite of those feelings. And by the end, I'm like, they're winning the Super Bowl. Like, it flipped on a dime. And so to answer your question of, is this who they are? I have seen them clean stuff up at this point in the regular season to where I believe they can do it again. I think they needed that exact result against that exact team to go on a run. Now, I will tell you, and we'll get into this today as we're previewing the game against the Cowboys, this quick turnaround does make me a little nervous. They have not played their best football this year on the road. They are going on the road to an environment which on Thanksgiving should be pretty raucous. The Cowboys are kind of still in it technically in the NFC. It's like this quick turnaround makes me nervous. If they win this game on the road at the Cowboys, I think they will win out. But it's all about this game and whether or not they're able to repeat the good of what took place for them against the Colts.
I just asked that because we've watched these games. We've watched Jacksonville. We've watched Denver. Now Buffalo. I kind of set aside. We watched the Chargers. We watched the Eagles. Like, I think they win those games comfortably if they just didn't make so many blunders. like not just like, oh, they eat. Like, I think they win comfortably if they don't. I mean, they make blunders that flat take points off the board or put them on the board for the other team. And like, they do it 3 or 4 times. Like, when you think about, all right, what affected points in the Denver game? Man, there's like 8 mistakes that the Chiefs made themselves. And I'm not even talking about any of the 3rd and 15s or the 3rd and 11. There's special teams plays. There's an 80-yard punt return. There's multiple touchdowns missed. There's an interception. There are things that put points on the board. There's a penalty on Jawan Taylor that takes a 1st and goal away. There's a drop by Rashee Rice. There's back-to-back penalties on Juju in the red zone that maybe sets up but we can do that with Jacksonville. We can do that. And it's just like, if they just halved it, instead of 8 of them, there was 4 of them. Like, they would win these games comfortably. So I don't know. At some point, generally, as you would look at it, hey man, guys, we're 12 weeks into this puppy, right? Usually that's just who a team is, right? Like, the Giants blow leads. That's what the Giants are. They're probably gonna do it again. They get up 10 in the 4th quarter, they're probably gonna blow the lead because that's just what they do. But you're right though, BK. We've seen them change and like no more than the 11-6 season where it's like the Raider game happened and then they just stopped doing all of those things. Like full hard stop. MVS was like, "Oh, I'll catch it." Like they just stopped. They stopped doing those things, all those things, and they put it together. So
I said this during the game on Sunday. I think the biggest thing that immediately stands out about what you're talking about there, Ron, and like it's penalties, it's drops, it's everything. But one in particular is the turnovers. Like they don't just turn the football over. They find the most crippling possible moments to do so, whether it's like inside of their own 10 or inside of the red zone when they're about to put up 7. They
don't
find
turn it over
the worst.
They don't turn it over at midfield. They don't turn it over. No, man, they turn
it is like, hey, how could we swing this game the most? Let's find that exact moment to go ahead and make this critical mistake. And more often than not, it's Mahomes making those critical mistakes. And that is why, like, I do believe there is an ability to kind of turn the page on that. That's not generally speaking been him. He's not a guy that makes a ton of these turnovers. So I think they can clean that up. That being said, I mean, you go back to that year where they lost to the Bengals in the postseason. We had all seen that game happen that season. We knew how they were going to lose if they were going to lose. Last year, you see the offensive line start to break down and like you knew how they were going to lose if it was going to happen. This year, we know what it looks like. Like, it's not hard to imagine them going into the AFC Championship game, for example, this season, and then having a game very similar to the Broncos game, and then finding a way to lose. So I know what it looks like, but I also know this team is capable of cleaning that up, and I'm just going to bet on that side of things.
All right, let's look at it when the Chiefs have the ball in this game. Like you said, quick turnaround. They played Sunday, and they got the Cowboys Thursday. I think a big talking point out of this game, besides the making plays that they made, is that they ran the ball 38 times. I mean, like planned runs. Kareem Hunt got 30 carries himself. I believe Clyde got 5 himself. And I think maybe Kelsey got 1 and Smith got 1. I believe that is the breakdown. Yeah, so they carried it 37 times. 37 planned runs in this game. And a lot of people are like, all right, Andy, a lot of people think Andy got peer pressured and bullied into running the football more. But that was the most we've seen them run the football, obviously, this year. And Kareem got 30 carries himself. We'll see what he looks like on Thursday because he didn't even really meet with the media. He by the fourth quarter, every time he got up, he was looking like, he may not make it. What's y'all's thoughts on this run game? Like, do you see this as a significant shift in what they're going to do? Like, what did you gain from this?
I think it was a shift. Now, what I'm struggling with, Ron, is this something that I believe they're going to stick with? No, it's Andy Reid. Like, if anybody believes the Chiefs are suddenly like committed to the running game in a serious way, boy, I've got 25 years of history to suggest that's probably not going to be the case. But it worked for a day. Like, that, not only were they committed to it, they still don't get explosive runs. I mean, I saw a piece from The Athletic earlier this week breaking down the explosive run plays from their running back. It's a historically bad explosive run game, but it's super successful. I mean, if you got a 1st and 10 run, they're going to get you 3 to 4. If you've got a 3rd and 1 run for them, they're going to convert. They are really good at that stuff. They just don't get any kind of explosives. They keep you on schedule. And I think that's part of what the running game allows this team to do. They also have some maulers. Like, you look at the left side of that offensive line, they were getting some serious push against the Colts in that game. I think some of it allows Mahomes to just take a play off where he doesn't have to think, and there's some value to that. Some of it is it keeps them ahead of the sticks, which helps again. And then, like, I don't think they're going to do it against the Cowboys. I think they're going to throw the ball 40 times this week. Against the Texans, maybe it looks a little different, but I don't know, man. It was nice to see for a week. It was a change of pace, and they went under center for their runs, which is a huge shift in philosophically how they go about it. But they also ran it, I think, like 16 times from under center and threw it too. That's a trend that if it continues, teams are going to figure that out really quickly on what exactly you're trying to do when you go under center. So I don't know, man. I think Andy Reid has told us at this point in time exactly who he is as a coach. I don't think they're going to continue to do what they did against the Colts.
To me, it felt more of like a this is how we try to limit shooting ourselves in the foot on offense kind of thing. And I think it's also like a, hey, we know Pat has problems with Lou Anarumo and the way he's disguising coverages, and that seems to have always been the case against this particular defensive coordinator. And it was like, so this is how we balance out some drives and keep the offense on the field instead of getting ahead of ourselves and just going super pass heavy. And then we are all of a sudden 3 and outs. And part of it was game plan to keep the Colts offense off the field. And I think that helped because the Chiefs were spectacular in slowing down Jonathan Taylor. But usually the way the Colts have won a lot of games this season is Jonathan Taylor's just going to break one eventually. And so the more often he's on the field and the more opportunities he has to do that, the more likely he is to inevitably just rip off that 70-yard touchdown or something like that. So I think it was a specific game plan to the Indianapolis Colts, and I don't think it's something anybody should just bank on from now on. Like when we were at me and Ron grabbed a beer with Pete Sweeney earlier.
We grabbed water. We grabbed beers.
Well,
you grabbed water.
But they had beers. I had a delicious pizza. But I was listening to these guys at the bar talk about, the Chiefs run game. Like, they finally ran the ball. You know, yeah, you got to keep the defenses honest. And that's how you keep them honest when you run the football. Because when you just drop back every time, then these defensive ends and these pass rushers just know they can tee off on you. And that's how, and the Chiefs finally did that. They got to do more of that stuff. And it's like, I just, okay. But like BK said, we know how this goes. I'm not expecting this to be the approach moving forward. Could they do it a little bit more often? Could they give some different looks and try to get a little bit more creative with the run game? Absolutely. I think the run game had gotten really stale anyways. And there was times even times in this game where it was frustrating, like that red zone, like pistol formation thing that they did where it was like everybody knew exactly what they were going to do. And then it was a slow developing handoff that just got crushed behind the line of scrimmage. Like, yes, they should run the football a little bit more, probably. I would like to see them get a little bit more interesting with the looks that they're doing there. But let's be real here. Like, they need Worthy to get healthy. They need Rice to continue to just be a playmaker and create. And then Kelsey is going to give you what he gives you. This passing game is how they're going to win Super Bowls, and we don't need to get out of our minds with the run game.
Listen, I think they could run the ball more. Like, I think usually, to me, 18 to 20 carries or so a game, I'm fine with when you run 60 plays. I think a lot of this had to do with circumstance. Man, they ran 96 plays. That ain't going to happen all the time. And a lot of that, like Serda said, was game plan. Maybe that was some game plan to try to keep the Colts offense off the field. I don't think that was I don't know that they planned that the Chiefs defense would have like 8 drives that are 5 plays or under. I don't know that you were hoping your defense would play well. And then also, like, there's another 2-play drive that the Colts have because they got to start at the 3 on the interception, right? Like, so when you have the ball 40 minutes and your defense they finished the game with 5 consecutive 3-and-outs. Like, that was the last 5 possession for the Colts. And as you kind of explained earlier, BK, I mean, these were like minute-and-a-half drives. Like, they were quick. So I think when you run 96 offensive plays, I mean, I don't think Pat's going to throw it 70 times. Like, I think, Mike, think about it. They drop back 50 times to throw. You don't generally think, well, you're also going to get 37 carries off of 50-something dropbacks. So I think a lot of it was circumstance, right? Like, I think.
Can I give you one other piece of that, Ron?
Yes.
How many of their carries? So their running backs had 36 carries in the game. How many of those 36 came, in your opinion, on the last two drives? What would you guess?
Oh, I'd
the
probably
field goal drive in the fourth quarter, and then the overtime drive.
I would probably say 5, and only because they got down and were trying to get in place.
12. A third of their carries for their running backs came on the final two drives of the game. So before then, they were at 24 carries for their running backs. And then suddenly they got into like win now mode. We're draining off the clock. We've got a 4-minute drive here. And then in overtime, hey, we're picking up chunks through the air and we're trying to like settle into field goal range.
Yeah.
Let's be conservative here. So prior to that, because they finished with 96 plays overall, they had 79 plays. And of those 79 plays, 30 of them, or about 24 of them were carries.
Yeah.
Would we be
We're
talking the
playing
same
carry.
way today if they hadn't had that same amount of success on the final two drives? Probably not. So this was very circumstantial.
And Mahomes ran it 4 times, and there were no designed quarterback runs. Right, those are scrambles that he ran for. And I think also a part of the circumstances, the Chiefs also left plays out there which extended their drives. Like there were big plays that should have been made that weren't made, that made the Chiefs drive. They got a 17-play drive in there. That's not because Andy wanted it to be. I think they missed on some big plays. So they run, normally you don't run 96 plays, right? Normally you're in the 50s and 60s. And if they run 50 to 60 plays, right, like you can see this being a 40-20 type of situation in terms of pass and run. And I'm fine. I'm fine with it. And I think there are some things that you made of like, all right, this takes Mahomes out of a play at times. And sometimes it just allows your O-line to feel like they're being physical. But again, guys, like they ran the football. They scored 20 points in regulation, right? Like, so like they scored 19 in Denver and ran it 14 times. And in that game, we saw a whole bunch of potential big plays that could have been made. In this game, they scored 20 in regulation. And guess what? We saw a whole bunch of potential big plays that could have been made in this game as well. And they weren't in a run game. Right. So like again, it's the run game helps. They've got to hit some of these plays. That's
and the biggest difference, Ron, in this game was the passing game. Like down the stretch, for all the talk that people have said about the running game and the changes that were made, dude, the two things that changed for the Chiefs in the fourth quarter: one, Pat became Pat again. He looked like himself. He was making throws in stride. Like he hit Rashee Rice on that crosser. And I was like, that's the play. We've been missing that all year long. And finally, a deep over route. He's able to get exactly where he needs to be. Boom. Hit him in stride. Take off for some yards after catch. That is the Rashee Rice that we were all expecting this season. Hits Xavier Worthy on a couple of timing routes. It's like, all right. They're using Xavier Worthy in the role that he's supposed to be in. This is what it looked like last year for him at times when he was at his best, because he's not a guy that wins on the deep ball as often as you'd expect for being as fast as he is. So the passing game was finally working. And then most importantly, I'm glad you mentioned the points scored. Dude, the last few weeks, they lost against the Bills. They lost against the Broncos. They scored 21 and 19 points in regulation. This week, they scored 20 points in regulation. They won because they allowed 20. Like that's a huge part of this as well. The defense stepped up. 28
and the offense added 7 to the 20 with that turnover at the 3. Yeah.
Yeah, so the defense stepped up down the stretch. The offense, the passing game finally got going. That was the single biggest change. The running game helped, don't get me wrong, and it kept them on schedule and it allowed them to get to the end of the game. But man, the passing game getting going is really what won that thing for you.
Now, look, as we actually dig into this one, we watched in that fourth quarter in overtime, the offense looked more consistently like the Chiefs. Now, they didn't score any touchdowns in that time period. I don't know what the hell they were doing at the end of the game, but they didn't score any touchdowns in that time period. But we saw, as you said, the return of the intermediate routes, the return of Rashee Rice, the return of certain things. But now they're facing a defense that has been, I think that I know they came into Sunday's game the 31st or 32nd ranked defense. It has improved. They've made some trades, adding Logan Wilson and most importantly, Quinnen Williams, who's playing like an all-pro. He's got 15 pressures in 2 games against the Raiders and the Eagles. So they are a bit different, but it does feel like, all right, the Chiefs we last saw offensively, the way they were playing and finding things in that fourth quarter and overtime, they should still, even though Dallas's defense isn't the poor defense it was before, where Rico Dowdle could go for almost 200 yards on them. They still should. The Chiefs still should have a good amount of success against this defense.
Yeah, they should cook them through the secondary. I mean, this is a defense that's ripe for the taking. And I understand Quinnen's a stud, man. We talked about this going into the deadline. When I saw it was like just a first round pick, I was like, hey, I think I probably would have done that if I was the Chiefs. And then you see the second round pick that's added into it. It's like, okay, yeah, they couldn't have done that. But it's been a critical addition. Ian Rappaport tweeted this out earlier this morning. Since the trades that the Cowboys made, the defense is 11th in points per game allowed and 7th in yards per game allowed. Before then, they were 31st in points per game and 31st in yards per game allowed. So it's completely changed the outlook for the Cowboys defense. That being said, they are still a unit that I would expect to have some success with. I mean, I think a big part of why they've had success is because they faced the Raiders and then an Eagles offense, which is, I mean, for the first half looked awesome. And then in the second half, they forgot how to play football. And we've seen that from them all season long. So I expect the Chiefs to have a lot of success in this game. I think it's going to come through the air, though. And this is part of why I don't believe what they did last week is something that will sustain. This is a secondary in particular you should have a ton of success with. The Chiefs found what worked for them in the second half. I think Pat's in for a huge game on Thursday.
And yeah, this Cowboys, despite the fact that their defensive front has been a lot better with the additions, like their secondary's been a little bit better, but I think some of that is matchup based. And like the Eagles are a super predictable offense, and the fact that like when the running game's not going, what they like to do is just take shots, but they like to take these like sideline play action shots. And they were having success with that in the first half because AJ Brown, Devontae Smith are awesome. And then once the Cowboys started committing to taking that away and they couldn't run the ball, they couldn't do anything in the second half. The Chiefs are going to attack the middle of the field. That's what the Chiefs do. Like they're going to attack the middle of the field with Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. And I think you've got a lot of matchups that you can absolutely exploit against this Cowboys defense. Like, yes, they're playing better. The Quinnen Williams trade has been spectacular for them. So
they shut out the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles scored 21 and they shut them down. Yeah, so I mean,
they're much better right now than they were a month ago. But I still think this is a defense that you can absolutely put up points against. And the Chiefs should find a lot of success. And I think they should find a lot of success through the air.
If they can block, and their pass rush has gotten better. If they can block their pass rush, like, I mean, I watched Jacoby Brissett just absolutely carve those guys up. And I know Williams wasn't there. But, I mean, we watched Jalen Hurts really. I mean, he almost threw for 300 yards in those first couple of possessions. They couldn't do anything with them. And it was just elementary routes. So, like, I'm with you. I think if they're – now, obviously, this is a quick turnaround Thursday game. We'll see what's up with Rashee Rice. He practiced. it looked like I just figured I know Noah Gray's not playing, but I figured he would be out the way he was moving around with his hamstring. But I know he was a limited participant. So it'll be big to have him because they got nobody that can mess with him, any of those guys. But yeah, this should be a game where, hey, you saw him run it 30 times Sunday. I think as BK said, they have the potential to really have big plays out there because this defense is not as good, even with Quentin Williams, it's not as good as any of the last two defenses they faced. Really, any of the defenses they faced besides the Raiders all season long. And there were plays out there against Denver, multiple big plays, like plays against Denver, multiple plays against the Colts that were there for the taking. And I believe there will be multiple plays against the Cowboys. And to me, I am hoping, guys, that this is the week that we see them not leave so much money on the field. Like you go and look at this game against the Colts. If Mahomes just can put the ball to the outside of Rashid Rice, that's a touchdown. There's a phantom weird penalty on Jawan Taylor that took points off the board. Kelsey, to me, had a touchdown that they couldn't pull the trigger on. There were just big plays out there to be had in that game, and they just couldn't pull the trigger, couldn't hit it. I mean, even in the space where Mahomes started feeling better in the fourth quarter, the throw before the big throw to Worthy, he just airmailed Travis Kelsey, who was standing just wide open in front of him. Thank God nobody was behind him to pick it off. So there are a lot of plays there to be made. I would imagine there are going to be even more plays to be made against this Cowboys secondary, and I'm hoping this is the week we see them make them.
Ron, think about this. So the Chiefs start on average at their own 29-yard line. Only 3 teams in the NFL have worse average starting field position. We all know the story there. I truly believe they should just fair catch on every return, because every time they try to return, they end up with some kind of a penalty and it sticks them closer to their own end zone.
I will say earlier we talked about this is just them. I think this is the special teams unit. I think Butker has improved, and I think he'll make kicks. But I think they're just not good in the return game in any game. We'll see. Now, they did get Dameon Pierce, who is a good returner. And I think he could help as soon as Thursday in the return game. I don't know about in the backfield. But in the return game, that could help. But it also would help if he doesn't get touched at the 17.
If nobody holds, that's my thing. I actually think the returners have been mostly fine. It's the penalties that are killing them. and the reason I bring this up is because you look at what the offense has done on average per drive. They're first in the NFL in plays per drive. They're first in the NFL in yards per drive. They're second in the NFL in points per drive. And that's despite being an average red zone offense. So to your point on leaving too many points on the table, dude, they're getting to the red zone consistently, despite having terrible field position. And once they do, they're average. They're middle of the pack in the NFL. If this offense moves the ball in the red zone the way that they do between the 20s, you're talking about a top 3 offense in the NFL again. It's just the crippling interceptions that are taking place in the red zone. It's not capitalizing on your opportunities once you get down there because you don't have guys that win in the confined spaces. Maybe this is just a personnel issue. That's possible, I suppose. But I think when you go up against the Cowboys and later on against the Titans and the Raiders, I think the offense is going to look a hell of a lot better in the red zone than it has recently against some of the opponents they faced. And we're going to be singing a different tune if they're able to do that, because the offense is moving the ball. They're just not converting in these red zone situations.
And they could not make, mistakes, as we've talked about, down there in the red zone, right? In the last 2 weeks, Rashid's got a drop in the red zone on a first down that could have changed things. We got penalties on Taylor, penalties on Juju. a misfire by Mahomes to Rice that should have been a touchdown. We got a penalty, I guess, on Jawan Taylor on the run by Kelsey. So they can fix that. All right. How about when the Cowboys have the ball? And the Cowboys, I always like, to me, their next two opponents are both opponents that are in the fight and that are in playoff contention. They just do it opposite ways. For me personally, I feel much more comfortable facing the team that are they going to score 17? I don't know. I know they're not about to go off and score like 24 points, as opposed to the team of like, hey, Cowboys, they may score 30 today. And I believe the Chiefs can roll with it, but like you play a team like the Texans, who we'll talk about next week, like you may have to make 3 or 4 plays against them. and I don't know if they can get to 20. Right. And I mean, they had 36 yards of total offense in the second half last week against the Bills. Now their defense is held on, for God's unchanging hand. But I mean, they turned them over 3 times. They got 3 turnovers and set them up to score. And they only won by 3, right? Like, so, and 8 sacks. So like, I like the team that can go out there and you could look and say they could go put 21 on the Eagles. And we've watched the Eagles the last 2 weeks just shut down the Packers and the Lions defensively. And the Cowboys can just run them like they did. That is concerning. And listen, they've got some weapons. And we just talked about what the Chiefs can do in the secondary. I think it's going to be an interesting approach on how Spags handles this, with the ability. He's got to get pressure, but he's also got to deal with Pickens, and he's got to deal with Lamb, and he's got to deal with the tight end. This is going to be interesting in a short week, game plan wise, that they have to figure things out with the Cowboys.
It's not a week that I would expect it to be like your typical Spags game either. Like sometimes you go up against an offense like this, you're like, oh, he'll just blitz him to death. No, not Dak. Dak is a guy that'll pick that apart. He's so good pre-snap at figuring out where his hot is and going to that guy immediately. He's one of the lowest time to throws against the blitz this year. If you blitz him, you will get scorched on a pretty consistent basis. Now, I know Spags is special with some of his blitz packages, but as you mentioned, Ron, it's also a short week. Harder to put some of those in when you have such a short week coming off of an emotional win on Sunday. So I also, like, you look at the back end in this game, I'm interested to see how they're going to match up against a guy like George Pickens. Because last week we talked about this with the matchup in the slot. Chiefs decided to go with Chris Roland Wallace, a pretty decent amount in that game. He was the guy that got the majority of those reps. Now, there were some 3 safety looks where Jaden Hicks ended up in the game, but it was almost exclusively Jalen Watson, Trent McDuffie on the outside, Brian Cook, Shamari Connor as your 2 safeties, and then Chris Roland Wallace came in the slot. Jaden Hicks came in occasionally as that 3rd safety. They did not play Noel Williams last week like I thought they would. He had 0 snaps defensively for them. What does that look like this week when you're going up against George Pickens? I know this sounds counterproductive because Jalen Watson is not your best corner. I think he is your best matchup, though, for George Pickens. And Pickens lines up almost exclusively outside. I would just have Jalen Watson mirror George Pickens this week. That guy follows him everywhere that he goes. So that way you don't end up in a situation where Trent McDuffie is lined up one-on-one against him. I love Trent McDuffie. This is the exact kind of matchup that he struggles against. George Pickens wins deep. He wins with go up and get it balls. And he's just flat out bigger, faster, stronger than Trent McDuffie. I do not want to see that matchup very often on Thursday.
And as special as CD is, like CD leads the NFL in drops this season and has had questionable hands at times. Yes, he's a big, powerful wide receiver too, who can beat you with his speed and his power and size and do all that stuff. I'd much rather, I am totally fine with McDuffie shadowing CD and Jalen Watson shadowing George Pickens, because George Pickens is the best go up and get it wide receiver in the NFL right now. Like even like he had an insane one against the Eagles where like Cooper DeJean, who's another really talented corner, it's perfect coverage. There's nothing you can do when you have a player like George Pickens who can catch the football that way and who can go get it that way and just make these insane catches. Like I think this is going to be outside of the Chiefs potentially playing the Rams or something like in a Super Bowl, like with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. This is the best wide receiver duo in the NFL right now. They're just that good, and Dak has been great this season. So you have to. I think this is going to be the biggest test of the season for the Chiefs secondary. I think the Chiefs secondary is really talented, and I would like to see Noel Williams more. I don't really know what's going on with that, but I don't think that they're going to be tested by another pair of pass catchers again this season than they will be by these two dudes because they have been that good this season.
Yeah,
they're just that talented.
They've got to get pressure. And I understand what you're saying with the blitz, and Dak is seasoned and really good against the blitz. But like Spags can't just go in there and say, all right, man, front four, we need you this week, because I don't think that's what this front four does. And I think he's going to have to find ways to get pressure on them. And because to me, I also don't think it's a good thought of, all right, give Dak time and then allow CD and Ferguson and Pickens to uncover like we watched the Broncos do to him. So he's got a lot on his plate. I think Chris Jones playing the way that he has played the last couple of weeks will be a big help. But I mean, we'll watch it. Hell, the Broncos just triple teamed him at one time. I watched the Colts do it a lot too. He still was able to make some hay, but they've got to figure out a way to get pressure because he can hurt them. By the way, like I do think a lot of this game is about field goals because, listen, despite what they did with the number one ranked offense last week, and I'll be honest with you, I'm surprised that defense played that well against the Colts. I'm surprised that Tyler Warren didn't have a bigger impact in the game. I don't even know what Pittman caught a 3-yard touchdown, but I don't really remember him doing a whole lot in that game. Pierce, a big play threat like a George Pickens, different, but a big play down the field threat. Really didn't do much. So I'm a bit surprised that they only gave up 255 yards to that offense. But with that being said, I've watched the Chiefs defense throughout the year. They're going to move the ball. Do they result in Aubrey field goals or do they result in Aubrey extra points? And I think that's the red zone and what you do once you cross the 50 is going to be a big thing in this game for both teams. And I think that's a big thing. And how about it, guys? What's a turnover look like? They've not forced a turnover since before Halloween, October 27th. I know there's a vibe mixed in there, but damn, like October 27th. They've turned the ball over in every game they've played since then, and they have not gotten a turnover in any of them. Like that, like we talked about the special teams. That's the other thing is with the field position thing, they're not getting short fields in any manner. They're not getting any because they're not getting takeaways, and you can kiss it goodbye with the special teams. Like they could. Last time we saw them get a turnover was Washington, and that is something that this team misses. They play great defense, but they had a couple of opportunities. I mean, Daniel Jones at one point was just trying to, it felt like, throw picks, and they just couldn't come up with it. I think that's a big thing, because turnovers can absolutely make up and help things. It's the thing that kept the Colts in this game.
Ron, last thing on this defense, I'm curious if you could take away one thing, because we saw this last week. Chiefs against the Colts were very clear. They had like the Eagles game plan, the game plan that the Chiefs have had against the Eagles in previous seasons of, hey, Saquon's not beating us. We're going to make Jalen Hurts beat us with his arm. And if he does, tip of the cap, he beat us, more power to you. And he has a couple of times. But they had that exact same game plan against the Colts. hey, Daniel Jones is going to have to beat us. We are not allowing Jonathan Taylor on the ground to beat us here. Against the Cowboys, if they have a similar kind of game plan where they say, hey, this piece of your offense will not beat us, what do you think it is that they're going to try to take away here?
I know it sounds crazy, but I think it's Williams, the back. Jess, I understand where you would naturally go, but I think Spags says to himself, I think we've got a better chance in this game if they're consistently in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7. And their running game, because their run game is a huge part of the play action of what they're able to do. And yes, they're very, very talented, but I think, like, to me, I think the Denver game worked just the way he wanted. They just didn't execute. They were consistently in 3rd and 8, 3rd and whatever. They just didn't execute. That's what happened to the Colts. They were consistently in 3rd and long, and they could not execute. They could not. The pressure, he blitzed a lot more. So I think it's Williams. And Williams, he's got to be top 5 in the league in rushing. I think he may be 3rd. Where is Williams when it comes to, I mean, he's 5th. Yeah, he's 5th in the league in rushing right now. So I think that, to me, is because what that represents is they're putting 3rd and long, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been, I think, after he was a player that was kind of like left for dead in his NFL career, and he's been a really nice story this season.
Damian Pierce 2.0 right there.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Chiefs can slow Javonte Williams down without game planning to slow Javonte Williams down. Like, the run defense has been good enough. It's got to be. If I'm them, I'm game planning George Pickens, but I do think that Jake Ferguson's a matchup problem for them too.
Yeah, I think middle of the field. I don't know how you do it, because some of this is just like personnel-wise, the Chiefs aren't particularly equipped for it, but the middle of the field passing game has been an issue for them this season, and the middle of the field passing game is exactly where the Cowboys want to live, and that is with Ferguson, that is with CeeDee Lamb. Pickens is his own thing, and that guy's been awesome this year, and he's a little bit more on the outside than in the middle of the field, but I almost think you kind of have to live with your 50-50 balls to Pickens and hope that Jalen Watson shuts him down, and then you try to take away the middle of the field so that way it becomes more of those. That's been the Chiefs' game plan against the Bengals in previous years, where they're just like, hey, Burrow, keep hitting those 50-50 balls. And if you do, we'll tip our cap to you, but we don't believe you're going to be able to do it consistently. He has sometimes. I think that's going to be a similar kind of game plan to what you see against the Cowboys this week. But I agree with you, Ron. I think they're going to put up their points. This is not an offense you shut down. You slow them down, and you hope to stop them a few times in the red zone.
All right, sort of grab me my music. Let's do a little certified or imposter. I make a statement. You tell me if it's certified or imposter. The Dallas Cowboys, kind of on what we were just discussing. The Dallas Cowboys are the toughest offense the Chiefs have had to face this year. The Dallas Cowboys are the toughest offense the Chiefs have had to face this year. Certified or imposter?
Imposter. I think the Lions are the best offense that the Chiefs have faced this year. That they was the most complete offense because they can beat you in so many different ways, man. At that point in time, they had Sam Laporta. They've got a quarterback that you trust, even though I know specifically for Spags, he's a guy you can heat up and then potentially give you some issues. But they've got a good running game. They've got a deep threat. They've got an unbelievable slot receiver. They had at the time a top 5 to 7 tight end in the NFL. I think the Lions are the best offense that the Chiefs have faced. That being said, if you're looking purely at the weapons, this team is right up there with the Colts and the Eagles, probably among the Colts, Eagles, and Lions among the teams that the Chiefs have faced. So they're really good. This is not to diminish them in any way, but the best? No, I don't think so.
I think I'm going to go certified on this one. And I love the Lions' weapons, and I love everything that they're bringing to the table. But I just think Dak is better than Jared Goff. And I think the big thing with the Lions is, like, Jameson Williams is a really fun player, but he's still like an inconsistent player. Like, the Lions don't have guys who can win deep down the field the way that George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb can, in my opinion. And then Jake Ferguson's just a really, really solid tight end. So I think, like, yeah, there's pieces you could argue with, but I think overall, just like passing attack and the way that Dak is playing this season, I do think that this offense, it has potential to give them more problems than any other offense that they've played this year.
It's weird, man. I think I'm gonna say imposter because, like, I think it's between the Cowboys, Lions. I think that is who it's between. The Eagles, but the Eagles' offense is just, they got talent, but it's not the same. Both of these teams, I think the Lions have a better offensive line. But the one thing about either one of them, which, because like the Ravens are always scary because they have the element of the run from the quarterback. That's not really something that concerns you in either one of these offenses. But when you look at everything you got to deal with and cover, it's a lot more than what you had to deal with and cover with the Ravens. I'm going to say imposter because, I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs may be the most unique weapon out of any of the teams, the players that the Chiefs have had to play this year. And that is with Montgomery back there, and that is with that offensive line, and that is with St. Brown and Williams and Laporta. So I'm going to go with the Lions. But the Cowboys, I think this is very, very close. I think this is really, really close. I'm gonna go with the Lions because I think their offensive line was better at that time. All right, prediction time. Chiefs are 6-5, and they really need all of them to really feel comfortable and ensure that they are in comfortably. They've got to win out. Right. I think they can get in at 11-6, but I think they got to go 12-5. They got to win out. Your thoughts? Prediction time, Chiefs Cowboys, Thanksgiving Thursday night.
So I mentioned earlier, this game makes me nervous. I think if the Chiefs win this game, they win out. It's a Thanksgiving Day game coming off of a super emotional home game against the Colts. Now you're going back on the road where the Chiefs just flat out haven't been very good this year. When they leave Arrowhead Stadium, they have not been at the same team as they have been this year at Arrowhead, especially defensively. So I'm very anxious about this game, Ron, even though I don't think the Cowboys are as good of a team as what they saw last week. I will give the Chiefs the benefit of the doubt, just as I did against the Colts. I trust the championship pedigree. We saw what that could do for you down the stretch against Indy. I think they win this one, but I think it's really close. I think the Chiefs ultimately win 31-30 against the Dallas Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's going to be close because I just think the Cowboys offense is that good. And it's like, even if you slow them down, like at any point, they can just create explosive plays in the passing game and march down the field. But I'm really hoping that, like, the way Chris Jones has been playing, that they can get after Dak a little bit up front. Because, like, the Cowboys offensive line is far from perfect. Like, you can give them some problems up front. And the way Chris Jones has been playing, like, hoping this all just carries over. And then I'm hoping the Chiefs offense has some success and they can put up some points against this team. And I think they can, but ultimately I do think it's a high scoring game, but I'm going to pick the Chiefs to win 34-27.
Yeah. This is such a weird situation because it's not just a regular game. It's not just they're going into Dallas on the road to win. Like, both teams, and I think that's at least a good thing for the Chiefs, both teams are coming off extremely emotional, left it all out, spent it, emptied the tank type games because both teams had to have these massive comebacks to get back. The Chiefs down 20-9 in the fourth quarter, Dallas down 21-0. Both teams had to fight and claw and emptied the tank to get there. I don't know what Kareem looks like. It's word that Pacheco is aiming to play on Thursday. We'll see. This, as you mentioned, Chris Jones, what kind of turnarounds that look like for Chris Jones? Does he still have that same energy that he's been playing with off the bye week the last 2 weeks? How is Rashee Rice looking? They're going to be without Trey Smith, which is a big deal with, Mike Caliendo potentially going in. So it's a weird situation. I'm going to say a tight one. I'm going to go 27-24 Chiefs. I do feel really weird about this game, but like of the ones that they have left, this is the one. I feel really good about their home games. And I'm with you. I think if they win this, I think they can run the table. But this one is a key one. I think this is potentially I know they play the Broncos and the Chargers later, but potentially for what and how this game is about with the short week on the road, coming off what they came off of, the opponent, I think this may be the toughest one they have left. But I'll go 27-24. We are out.